on a day that was so cold that the road was icy and snowy. And there I was on the bike, slipping and sliding all the way down this steep road, passing the oncoming traffic, and all the time wondering, what if I careened off the side of the road and down the side of the mountain. But the only time I've ever felt in fear of my life was back in 2011 when I rode bareback an Asian bull elephant in Laos. Now this was part of it's Elephas maximus is its proper name. This was part of a tour that my wife and I did of Indochina, and it was at an elephant sanctuary. And the elephant sanctuary is a bit like a retirement village for all of these working elephants that have reached the end of their working life. Now, Asian elephants are like their African cousins, but they are smaller, but they're still 3 metres tall. And they weigh 5 tonnes. And they actually are as intelligent as the great primates, as gorillas and chimpanzees and orangutans. So there I stood at the foot of this elephant, and for the first time it dawned on me, how on earth do you actually mount an elephant? And as I was sitting there, it's not like getting on a horse. As I stood there, the driver who was sitting on the back shouted a little command, gave a little tap with a stick, and the elephant raised its right foot to form a step for me to climb on. It was like he was consenting me to get on to his back because he knew that this was the last ride of the day. And the last ride of the day meant that he got to go down to the river for his bath. Now it was a highlight for us, and it's also a highlight for every elephant every day. So I managed though to, even with the help of the step, I'm trying to get up to the 3 metres and literally have to grab the elephant's backbone and scramble as much as you can to climb to the top. Now, I struggled, much to the laughter of my driver and all of the other 10 drivers in our troop on their elephants. They thought it was quite fun. But eventually I made it to the top, and you sit on the elephant's neck and you put your legs around as tightly as you can, and you put your hands on the elephant's head. And I thought, whoa, that's great. I'm relieved. That is the hardest thing I'm going to have to do today. Well, I thought so at the time. So I want you to picture this. There's 10 elephants, 10 fully grown elephants with 10 Western tourists all sitting on their necks, all in a long, marching down single file, down a jungle trail, down a gentle slope, down to the river for their baths. Once we reached sight, though, of the water, which was down this little embankment, down into the water, I learned that my elephant was the nonconformist of the group. He wanted to take the shortest route to that water to get his bath. And so he deviated and he started to climb down the steps of this embankment that was like 45 degrees, wet, slippery clay. And with each thud that happened, the elephant shook. And I'm on top with my legs wrapped around and my hands on the head. And while he was going down like that, it was like one of those mechanical rodeo things that you see, where the people have got one hand on with a hand up like this. And that was me going down on this elephant. And I thought, with each thud, what if? What if I fell and was crushed by this elephant? I could see myself making the headline news. And I tell you, it was a hard thing to do. But eventually, we navigated this. Oh, and the driver, of course. The driver was shouting. He was shouting, and he was tapping with a stick, and he was shouting. Now, elephants have big ears, but that doesn't necessarily mean they listen. Because there was nothing that he could do as the driver of this elephant to deter him from getting down to that water. So eventually, after much to do, we eventually made it down into the stream. And there I was, sitting in this pristine river in the middle of the Laotian jungle with the water lapping up to my knees, thinking, how good is this? Where else in the world would I rather be than in this space right at the moment? I had reached my goal, he had reached my goal. We're at the end of our journey. Or so I thought. Because with very little input from the driver at the back, the minor tap of the stick, the elephant plunged down the river right to the bottom onto its knees. With me, of course, with my legs tightly around its neck, I submerged with it, thinking, well, it can't be long. Elephants can't stay down there that long, can they? But in the end, no, I had to let go. And I went to the surface coughing and spluttering. And there I was in this lovely pristine river, not knowing where my elephant was. And eventually I swam around there for a little while, and I thought, okay, at the moment I've now learnt Asian elephants also have a great sense of humour. Because certainly eventually he rose up again, exactly where he'd left me, I sitting on the top. Elephas Maximus had had the last laugh.